Hello and welcome back to Alchemy with Shiana Lee. And today I am super excited because I have a male guest today, someone who I adore a lot. And I've only just recently met Nathan, actually was the best friend of Hannah, who's been a regular guest on the show's partner. That he was his best friend. And I actually met him when I was over in Sedona. And we connected right away, I believe, out to their rehearsal dinner, and we got very teamed up and very connected in a short amount of time. We went deep on our values and our work and really connected. And they basically named us Sugar and Spice because we were the coordinators of the wedding. And I really love Nathan because he is passionate and he is really in touch with like his body, his feelings, his values, his work, his businesses. He has multiple. And it's a really refreshing sort of energy to receive from a man, I will say. It's unique, and I'm excited to explore today a lot of different topics, but mostly around ISTA, tantra, men's sexuality, relationships. We're going to dive deep and we're going to be a bit silly too, because we are a little bit silly. And I will swing it over to Nathan to introduce himself a little bit more officially and his work. And yeah, welcome him on to this space.
Thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Me too.
Yeah. So, introducing myself. I consider myself a multi-passionate human being. So I'm a bit ADD with life, if you will. I own a couple of restaurants as like my main business that I've been in for about a dozen years. I have a pizza shop and a smoothie shop in downtown Phoenix in Arizona. And yeah, we just love serving nourishing, high vibe food to people and just like creating amazing experiences for other humans. And I'm just really passionate about creating cultures where people love coming to work and enjoying themselves. And there's just a good energy there and everyone feels supported. So that's kind of my main businesses, but I have a lot of other side passions and hustles. So I've been in the men's workspace for about a decade now. I've also been in the tantra, sacred sexuality space for about a decade as well. And so I organize events, facilitate events, host events. I'm in leadership roles in those different communities. I'll be talking a little bit more about ISTA, which is the International School of Temple Arts. They're a worldwide organization that runs trainings around the pillars of spirituality, sexuality, and shamanism, which I think is one of the most fascinating cross sections that I've ever come across to explore. And there's just so much to be learned there. There's so much incredible work being done there and play because it's not all just work. Because what's the point of all this work that we're doing unless we're actually enjoying ourselves and having fun and leading to living a better life? So, yeah, really excited to just dive into whatever topics we want to. You can kind of ask me anything, whatever you're curious about. And yeah, last thing is like, I'm also an artist. So I rap and I enjoy making music and just like basically taking all the different weird realms that I explore and like putting that into music and like just letting the messages and the energy flow through me. And that's also just like really fun. And actually one of the deepest bonding points between me and Clay. Clay is Hannah's now husband and how we got connected. And so we've jumped in a bunch of different freestyle rap dojos together that I created, and that's been a super fun way that we connect. And also like one of my most like fun and effective ways to do shadow work, actually, which in that case I would call it shadow play. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a little bit of me and my multi-passionate nature. And yeah, I'm super excited wherever we get to go from here.
My God, I just love you. I literally fell in love with you like when I first met you because of your passion and zest for life. And you feel very similar to me. I feel like I don't really box myself into one category because I just love to taste life in all of its textures, whether it's the dark, like shadow aspects, whether it's like the spirituality, shamanism, tantra, and business world as well. And I think it is a very rare human quality. I find that a lot of humans really tend to box themselves into, I am this, and identify that themselves as that. And then they never let themselves like step outside the boxes. Where you and like rap, I've listened to your rap. It was pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie. And your businesses are amazing. Like we had the pizzas at Hannah's wedding, and they were so delicious. And I just love that you're so multifaceted and also not. I find I speak about this a lot. Like people in the spirituality sort of tantra world can come across very like facade like there's an air about them that they forget their humanness and they forget their play element and they take it very seriously to the point of yeah, they become quite rigid and abrasive, where I find that the most spiritual people I have connected with or met, even like yourself, you're still grounded. You're still here on earth, playing in your elements and enjoying life, which is I just love that quality about people. So, yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me, one of my favorite definition of enlightenment that I've heard is just lighten up. So I feel like those who are really, further on the path, it's like you take life less seriously, honestly. It's like you understand the cosmic joke of it all. And
Yeah.
yeah, there's a time and a place for that seriousness, or really reverence is a word I like even more than seriousness. Because I'm actually not trying to be so serious in my life anymore. But yeah, just bringing that quality of reverence to life, which can come in many forms. And often you can have reverence and playfulness in the same sentence. And that's like more and more what I'm all about, which is, yeah, it's just so fun.
Yeah, same. I would have to agree. I'm really excited to explore this with you, being a male guest, being a man on the podcast. And I would really love, a lot of the guests that I have are women. And yeah, I would love to hear a little bit more around your journey through your lens, your perspective as a man, the tantra world, the men's sexuality world, what it's really gifted you, and then, how have you really used that in your life? How has it changed your viewpoint? Anything like that would be so yummy to drop into first.
Yeah, would love to. Yeah. So what comes up for me first is, the reason I really was drawn to the Tantra world, to sacred sexuality, which Tantra isn't just sexuality, by the way. Neo Tantra is honestly a better term for what a lot of people think of when they hear the word Tantra, which is more focused on the sacred sexuality. But, I was really drawn into that world, honestly, because of the struggles that I had most of my life growing up, to be vulnerable for a moment. So I grew up Catholic, which is a pretty shame based religion, and sexuality. Essentially, I just kind of took it, put it in a box, put it up on a shelf, and just was like, don't touch that. Essentially, it just felt very dangerous. It felt very like bad and wrong, except just in a very specific context. So intimacy kind of just avoided me most of my growing up years. I feel like I really missed out on a lot of experiences that maybe I saw my friends or my peers having. And I actually didn't even have my first kiss until the summer after I graduated college, just to kind of give you an idea of like how much
Wow.
that part of my life was just missing, which like looking back on, like, how did that happen? Like, that's so weird. So
So real. I think it's so beautiful.
yeah. So it really just came because I'm just like, it just didn't come naturally to me. And then, for me, when I'm in a belief system, like I'm going to stay as in integrity with that belief system as I can. And so it's like, I didn't realize that, my other friends who were Catholic, like they were having sex, they were doing all these things. And I'm just like, wait, I thought we weren't supposed to be doing all these things. Like, I'm not. Like, I guess I didn't get the memo. But
Gosh, that's so cute. Oh,
so so yeah, kind of, fast forward and it's like I think I kind of grew up with the belief either it just comes naturally to you or it doesn't. And I didn't even realize that I could like work on it. I was just like in so much pain, and just there was so much longing there and so much loneliness that eventually I started becoming curious, because I felt like I was banging my head against the wall, and started finding the tantra world, alternative relationship models, and just, different ways that I could like actually work on the skill of relating and connecting and intimacy. And so
yeah.
it's been a pretty deep study for me for about a decade now. And I feel like I'm finally figuring some things out. And
I love
Yeah, like it is a solvable problem.
gosh, yeah. Yeah. Do you feel
So,
like
yeah.
I just wanted to ask, do you feel like because of your religious upbringing, and kudos to you actually to be solid in your faith and your belief systems. I think that that's an achievement in and of itself. But do you feel like your body was, yeah, a little bit shut down and you were carrying a lot of shame, like religious shame, sexuality, relationships? Or did you just feel like it was something you didn't really have a grasp on?
I think it was a little bit of both,
Yeah.
or perhaps a lot of bit of both.
Yeah.
So I probably could have been diagnosed like somewhere on the spectrum growing up. I
Yeah.
kind of like to say that it was a flip of a coin that I got put in gifted education versus special education. I just kind of had a bit of a personality in mind like that, where I was very gifted in certain ways, very smart, but then other ways I just was like super socially awkward, super didn't understand how human relating worked, and just always felt kind of at a loss. And I also just didn't have the body to hold like the energy that would like flow through me. Like if I had like a crush on someone, it would be like so overwhelming that I like couldn't even speak, couldn't even say anything. Otherwise, I felt like I was just going to be like a river and all of it would just come out, which
Yeah.
it did at times, which is super embarrassing and all that.
Mm.
But yeah, I'd say like, the religious upbringing really did come with a lot of shame, which I only really started unpacking when I found the practice of orgasmic meditation,
Yeah.
which is also where I met Hannah. Me and Clay
Yeah.
both joined that practice and joined the coaching program, and we met Hannah there, and I became friends with her, and they ended up dating at some point. And the rest is history. But yeah, that practice really brought up a lot of that shame, and I was like, oh, like this is wrong. I shouldn't be doing this. Like this is weird. But it's like I had to face it, and it brought it to the surface, and I got to like critically evaluate, what do I believe about this? What do I believe about my body? What do I believe about this sexual energy and about connecting and relating with other humans in more intimate ways? And so that's where things started to really unravel. And I was able to deprogram and decondition myself and come into like, my first steps of like greater liberation in that area.
Yeah. Beautiful. I really love that you're here at this moment because I feel like, well, we're seeing it in the world, right? Like I'm seeing it greatly, this huge split and divide between men and women. And there seems to be, and it's a pretty obvious split, fertility rates are dropping, people are not dating anymore, women have had enough. Women, I believe, have been on the forefront of doing the work, and I'm putting that in air quotes here, going to therapy, working on their shadows, doing emotional work. And I find it really interesting that you have done this work. You're the very small portion of men, especially in Australia. I don't know what it's like over in America, but the men here are very, very behind in the ages. And, I find that a lot of their shadows are at play with actually being able to step up and relate in a conscious beautiful way with women. And I do believe that most of those blocks are shame, a lot of like repressed shame, and also their inability to really tap in and face their shadows and their repressed emotions. And yeah, I want to kind of tap into that a little bit and yeah, really understand from a male perspective. What does that look like for you to sort of show up and do the, quote unquote, the work? What were your biggest obstacles with being able to really show up and relate a different way and relate to yourself in a different way?
Yeah. Big question.
Huge question, but I really want to dissect it a little bit, even just
Yeah.
playfully, because, I think that the way we are going, like most of the women around me, and even especially women in the spiritual communities, have kind of had enough and they're stepping back completely. I want to kind of bridge that gap a little bit, right? And I really want to like dissect it a bit and see like what it would take for a man to show that he is ready to step into, yeah, a relationship or emotional regulation or all of these like little tendrils that kind of like stop this, yeah, stop us from like really connecting with each other.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, totally. Would love to dive in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
so
get deep, Nathan. Let's get deep.
let's go.
Let's go.
So, yeah, it's an interesting moment for me to also share a perspective on this because right now, my primary men's community that I'm a part of, that I've been a part of for 2.5, 3 years now, and have helped to be one of the main leaders to grow it. It's called Mantras. And we started off as a men's community. Yet, pretty soon after that, we started to have some women who were connected to some of the men that kind of noticed what we were doing, which has started off with a few different kinds of events. There was like, you know, Sacred Combat was one of them where, you get together with some pads and do some physical, sparring, but in like kind of more of an intentional way where we're kind of learning to play with power with each other in like a physical way. Some of the men would also go and like shoot guns and stuff, which like I'm not like as into, but like that's cool, a little more of the traditional manly kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
then we started this like book club where we would read these like, conscious personal development kind of books and kind of dissect them and have weekly meetups around them and talk about the ideas and apply them to our lives and share our victories and our challenges in doing that. And so we had some women start to like take notice and be like, hey, like this is really cool. Like I just would love to support you. And so we had a few women who started supporting the community. And then eventually more women started coming. And over the last year or two, like the women have actually kind of developed their own community alongside of us, which has been really beautiful in a lot of ways, where it was kind of this men's community where women are like, hey, we love the work you're doing. We want to also do our own work, but also just support you in what you're doing. But now there's this transition we're creating where it's becoming a true men's and women's development community so that we're both like sovereign entities with under the same community umbrella. And it's no longer just going to be a men's community. It's like a men's and women's community, which is bringing a lot of challenges in like, how do you do that when men and women in certain ways are so different?
Mhm.
And, you know, the masculine and feminine, which isn't equivocal to men and women, but, you know, more male bodied folks can be more typically masculine and vice versa for women and the feminine. Of course, there's plenty of nuance there as well, but
Yeah.
just bringing together, the two different primary genders is a unique challenge to how do we cohesively weave together. And one of the noticings that I want to share on that front is one thing I've realized more and more is that in my experience, and I imagine this is not a lot of other men's or women's experience, but in my experience, there's actually a lot more men doing the work than I think most people realize. It just looks a little bit different. Like the work that women do and the work that men do is different. And we've had challenges, I think, both ways where even some of the men in our community, I think, have taken on almost a slightly opposite perspective of what you shared earlier, where they're like, we're doing the work, but like, where are the women doing this level of work that we're doing, which is interesting.
Interesting.
And I think probably a more rare perspective to come across. But what I want to say is, I think where I'm being led and where I think like even better solutions is realizing like we each have our own work in different ways. And we need to learn how to better understand what each other's work is. I mean, there's some similar cohesive work that we're all doing together in a similar way. But there's work that men are doing over here, women are doing over here, and it's not meant to be the same.
Yeah.
And so I've noticed on both sides, there can often be a challenge of like women not recognizing the men for the kind of work they're doing for themselves because they're not doing it in the way the women think it should look. And vice versa, men not seeing the women doing certain work in a particular way that they are doing it and thinking it should look different. So
Interesting.
it's been a really interesting journey to learn how to like honor that, especially from my perspective, where we do live in a society in general that we have undervalued the feminine and we don't even quite understand, even if it's in our face, like the value that the feminine brings in certain ways.
Yeah.
And that's like a lesson on our end that like we get to get better at seeing and supporting and recognizing and acknowledging. And vice versa. There's certain things that I think men are doing a lot of work on themselves and who put a lot of effort in every day to create certain stability, to create certain protection, to create certain qualities within themselves and within the people and world around them that are often under recognized by women, which is
Yeah.
just kind of sad on both ends. Men have, I think, about 3 times the amount of suicide rate as women as like a
Yeah.
general statistic, and I think a lot of that does go to men just kind of being expected to do show up in a certain way, but it's like, "But don't expect me to congratulate you. Don't expect me to say good job. Don't like, that's just what's expected of you."
Yeah.
And if you're having a struggle, there's like it's a lot harder for men to reach out for that support and not be shamed for it, either by men or women, to be honest. And
Yeah.
so we're in this really interesting experience and experiment to learn how do we better recognize and honor each other's differences and come together in our similarities so that we can learn to be more harmonious with each other and support each other in whatever our work is that creates better relationships with each other. So that's
Mm.
very much still a fresh learning process that will continue to be on.
Yeah.
But I just want to illuminate a little bit, at least from my perspective, what I'm seeing, what I'm noticing, and what
Yeah.
we're experiencing in our local community. That's, bringing up a lot in this like now co-weaving together of the leadership of the community and learning how do we like function together, which is, I think, even in the larger world, still pretty rare to see it happen in like a really good way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would have to so agree. Like one of the woundings that I believe like women press upon with men quite regularly, and I see it all the time, is this yeah, there's this element of expectation, I believe, and there is no softening into connection. So, by actually appreciating what we receive or appreciating what we see. And it really activates a lot of men's like core wounding of, not being good enough. I see it in my relationship clients all the time. I would have to say it's like the number one wounding that gets pressed upon. And it is this like lack of appreciation, lack of receiving gracefully, lack of actually being present, I would say, with the bits of connection and the receiving that you're getting moment to moment. But I always speak on how our subconscious like expectations, like our hidden expectations actually erodes eroticism. And that is with life, with relationships. There is this like I don't know. I've been traversing this for the past year and really sitting with, family dynamics, friendship dynamics, relational dynamics, how we all have this like hidden subconscious, not spoken about expectations. And they just go when they're kept inside and internal, and we're actually not aware of these expectations. The things that happen around us or to us or in relationship will activate this, and we won't even know. Like it's like unmet needs, wants, desires. And honestly, like I find it so hilarious in a cosmic joke kind of way that 9 times out of 10, the thing, and this goes a little bit, this might naturally lead us into the more shadow aspect of your work, but it is this abrasiveness against something within us that we don't even know that's there. And it'll just completely erode present moment energy, right? And like present moment curiosity and present moment connection and play, because it'll be abrasive on our like somatic body, right? And we will feel the seething of resentment, and then we will think it's about the other person. And I think that there's a huge, large breakdown of relational dynamics that I see constantly. And I want to dive into a bit of shadow work. But before I do, I just wanted to share like, it's interesting about how it is over. And I will have to say, when I was over in America too, I actually noticed a lot more men there that were sort of conscious and connected and grounded. That is not the go over in Australia. It is completely flipped over. So this could be a new business idea for you, Nathan. Maybe we should get the men from America and the women from Australia and create this like co-relational dating app where they get to connect. and basically everyone will be happy. Worldwide domination over here, sugar and spice, because the women in Australia are clearly the leaders in this aspect. And yeah, and I find that the men are a lot more very nonchalant. And I think it goes with like the Australian culture as well. They kind of like take a step back and kind of like, we are the leaders. And it's really interesting. But anyway, side note, let's get into shadow work.
All right, we'll put a pin in the Muggle dating app.
I think it'd be incredible. I think that could be something, yeah, for sure.
Love that. That's great.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I would love to speak on a bit more of this. And it is a big piece of my work. I find it interesting that me and you have both been in the Tantra world for as long and both been delving into, did shamanism and stuff as well. So I'd love to like really tap into, yeah, the shadow play aspect. Because a lot of people get a little bit like, oh, what is this? It's so scary. And delve into the world of like, yeah, shamanism, because I think that them two really go hand in hand, personally, in my experience. But I would love to hear your experience of it and, yeah, what that looks like for you in your world and life and businesses.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So one piece I'll just share as context. I'm very shamanic in nature, and I spent about a decade working pretty deep with plant medicines, most of that being ayahuasca. That was like my main spiritual mentor for about 8 years up
Whew,
until around
that's massive.
2022. Yeah, very deep work. If you believe in past lives and all of that, I served that medicine in previous lives. So it was very familiar to me when I started working with it in this one. And it really has just been the teacher that's allowed me to kind of go the deepest within myself and kind of continue the work that my soul's been doing for quite some time now. But I came to completion with at least the first phase of working with that master teacher plant in 2022. And it just became very clear that I'd finished the curriculum that I'd signed up for up to that point. So I
Yeah.
spent the next 3.5 years actually completely sober. And that's when I went even deeper into the Tantra world. Because I became really fascinated by how can I energetically recreate the level of like transformational experience that is often experienced in like a deep plant medicine journey, but without the plant medicine.
Oh, I love this. Okay. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I feel like that's like a big piece of my life's work is to like kind of reverse engineer like deep transformational spaces and understand how we can facilitate that, in Tantra specifically using the tools or allies of breath, sound, movement, as well as I would add in intention and touch. And those are like our
Yeah.
5 shamanic tools on how we can create those transformational energetics. And I am here to say, in my experience, I've experienced similar levels to my deepest ayahuasca journeys in some of the Tantra spaces that I've been in, some of the transformational trainings that I've gone through, which is very wild because I did not ingest any substance and neither did anybody else in the space that we were in, yet I was tapping into that depth of possibilities and healing. And it's just really wild to me that we can do that. But that's
Yeah.
like even a thing, like that's like literally magic that we get to do. But it all is built on this foundation of understanding these principles on how all of that works and why all of it works and how we can, there's a certain architecture and how we can create those containers to reliably create those experiences. And that to me is one of the most like interesting things.
That you're talking about this because I find a similar thread. It's interesting when you go down this road. I personally I don't think I've ever done any plant ceremonies in my life. As a matter of fact, when I was working alongside my shamanic mentor, I worked with her for like 4 years, and she was adamant that she actually taught me from the get go that you didn't have to ingest these plants to receive the medicine of the plants. And she actually really taught me about tapping into like our architecture, like our ability to actually tap into the medicine's blueprint, like the plant's blueprint without actually, and I suppose it's like ancient. If we want to dive into like really woo woo shit, if we're talking about like the age of old where people were what are they called? Breatharians or whatever, where they're actually
Yeah.
just like breathing in the life force of the plant and the energy. And I love that oh my God, there's so many things. I just get so excited talking about this sort of stuff. But it gets me juiced up that other people are talking about this and really grasping it. And you've had like an embodied experience of it, which really is like, oh yeah. Whereas I can talk about this stuff and I haven't had plant medicine and I wouldn't know, but some of the most powerful transformational experiences within my body have been completely using those key elements that you spoke about. And it's a thread that I see common in shamanism and in tantra and in the healing world, right? Like I've worked alongside a Balinese traditional healer who really grasps on the same concept I used in my Peruvian lineages shamanism, which is the same threads I've seen in Tantra and the Neo Tantra world, those elements. And like, it just, once you kind of like go down these pathways and you take a step back, it actually becomes so clear to see. And then when you start speaking of this to other humans, like these core elements, you can have the most transcendent experiences in your body and actually work with your architecture through breath, through sound, through movement, through intention, through touch. And it is the baseline for most healing and most sexual experiences. And it actually just blows my mind that it can be so simple and that people aren't grasping it. And I'm like, I want to scream it from the rooftops that it can be so easy. It can be so easy. And I just wish everybody could understand that it can be so easy to tap into the wisdom of our body and have these experiences of like oneness and, these like heightened orgasmic experiences. And it just blows my mind. It really
Mm.
does. And I love that you just touched on it because not many people, and I don't know if it's because we've been doing it so long that we've just kind of maybe come to this point of like embodied knowing. And we're like, whoa, it's all clicked into place because this wasn't my knowledge 10 years ago. It's really powerful. And it's really all like these external tools and things that we use are really not even needed. Like, they're helpful and they can be powerful, but really truly tapping in. These tools can just be noise sometimes, and really, like the medicine is our own body, like our own vibration, like our own sound. It releases tones that's healing for our body, and it just blows my mind, babe. Like it cracks me up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so fascinating, and like one thing I want to speak to that's coming up is I think it can be a bit of a paradox because on the one hand, it is so simple. Like once you really get it, once you understand it, once you embody it, it is so simple in a way where it's like, wow, I thought I needed all of these things to experience this thing. And like, you actually don't. Yet most people where they're at and like each person's on their own unique journey is like it is work to get to that point. And there can be a lot of things that can get in the way and we're programmed and especially in our modern day society that like we don't have that power that we're asked to give our power away at every step of the way. It's like give it away to the pharmaceuticals, give it away to the politicians, give it away even to the plant medicines, you know. And that's like actually not the point of plant medicines. Like the plant medicines are simply there as teachers. That's why they call them teacher plants. Like any good teacher, they're meant to teach you the thing so you can do it yourself. Like you're only a student until you're not. And we're always a student and there's always more to learn, but like certain teachers have certain things to teach us until we master it. Like, but once we do, it's like you don't need that teacher to teach you the thing anymore because you already understand it. And now you get to actually become the teacher and you can then just apply the knowledge in whatever way that you want to once you gain that understanding. So I think it's kind of a both and where it's like, yeah, once you get there, it's like, it's amazing what you can do just with your breath, just with some sound, just with some movement, just with some simple touch. But yeah, it's like a lot of people do have, I think, so much in the way of that does need to be worked through. And that's what I would say the work is. And that's what a lot of shadow work is as well, to kind of full circle it back to that topic is just like, what's in the way of understanding my true nature? What's in the way of a truer, perspective, a perspective that has more clarity to it, that has less distortion to it. It's really understanding that I might see the world in a particular way, but that has a mix of truth and untruth to it, or a mix of truth and ignorance, truth and distortion. And how do we sift through that and refine it and purify it so that it becomes more truth? It's more expansive, it's more encompassing, and there's less distortion, there's less judgment, and there's more curiosity, which I think is one of probably the biggest pieces of evidence that someone has really done a deep amount of shadow work is that in most cases you can stay in a place of curiosity rather than judgment.
Oof.
Which doesn't mean that you don't also have, like, let's say, emotions and even intense expressions. Like, that all gets to be a part of this, but where do we land? Once the wave has passed, like what place are we coming from? What intention do we have in expressing those emotions and expressing that energy? Where is it coming from? And, that's one of the things that I think is one of the most tricky with, like, male and female dynamics with masculine, feminine relating, even just on an inner energetic level, is really noticing if I'm not in a place of curiosity, then something's wrong, essentially. Like there's something I'm not seeing, there's something I'm not understanding here. If I'm talking about a dynamic with somebody else, I may be correct that this person is doing this behavior and this thing. Yet oftentimes I see people go too far where they're now like, you're actually feeding the very thing you don't want. And I see this with men and women. I'll speak to kind of the perspective you brought where like you can, I've experienced women. Some of my friends will be in this perspective of like, wow, like where are the guys doing the work? And that's partially true. Like there's a lot of men who are not, and let me be like very clear about that. I think, why they're not is a whole nother conversation. And I think most humans are not set up well to do this kind of deeper inner work. We're not given the tools, the resources, the support that we need, the mentorship that we need that we used to have in perhaps earlier societies.
Yeah.
But, it's a tricky thing where it's like, yes, that can be true. And if you lean too hard into that perspective, you're actually not even going to notice the men who are already in your world who are doing the work. And that's just unfortunate, you know? If
Yeah.
that becomes such a strong lens, you are also literally closing yourself off to viewing the men in your life who are sincerely efforting towards that, who would actually be a lot more open to like meeting you where you're at and leaning in with you. But there's too harsh and strong of a judgment. There's too much rigidity there in a belief that actually prevents that from being in your reality. Because now that man's getting painted with that picture of that belief, and he's actually not even able to be that man for you. And again, this goes both ways. I see men doing the
Yeah.
same thing with women. Oh, she's a crazy whatever, It's like, yeah, if that's your view, like that's what you're going to keep getting. You're not going to get that connection you're looking for. You're not going to get that person to meet you where you're at so that you can be on this journey together. And the
Yeah.
last thing I'll say on that for now is like we need each other. Like men and women need each other. Yes, there's a certain amount of work we can do within ourselves. Yes, there's a certain amount of work men can do with men and need to do with men. And same for women. But there's a whole nother level of work, which I would say is generally more advanced, where we actually can't do it alone.
Yeah.
And that's like the progression of the journey. It's like I'm the lone wolf in my life in general. And that's like kind of where most people start. I'm trying to do it all myself. Then you find others who you can start to walk this journey with, and men find men, women find women, and that's beautiful. We need those spaces. We will continue to need those spaces. But where are the spaces where men and women are coming together and really taking that next level of challenge to understand what we don't understand about each other, to bring those frustrations to the table and actually talk about them, feel them together, and become curious about them and not get stuck in our judgments of each other? And I think that's a much bigger ask. I think it's much more difficult to actually do that in practice, but I think that's what we're being called to. And it's, the more that we have those models and examples of those of us who are ready to do that type of work, I think the more that we can accelerate the growth of others who are maybe not as far along in the path yet. So really for me, it all comes back to the deeper I get on this journey, the more I realize that I'm called to service, that I'm called to leadership, that I'm called to be the examples that I don't see in the world, that I would like to see in the world of more holistically developed human beings, men and women. Because the more we have those, like the easier it is to believe, oh, I can be that too. I can do that too. And right now, it's just pretty rare to see that. I mean, I I don't know about you, but I don't trust the leadership in our world right now who are
Yeah.
making the decisions on the biggest level. Like, not at all. And like, I'm not waiting around for them to figure it out because I don't think they will in time before, we use all this crazy technology to just completely destroy ourselves or whatnot, or create a very awful
Yeah,
dystopian world.
existential.
I don't
It's
think we're
true.
too far yet. It seems pretty bleak when you just look at it right now, for sure. But I don't think we're done yet. I think we've got some cards up our sleeves still that we're going to be able to pull through. But yeah, so I hope, something I said lands for whoever's listening for this, whether it's something that is like you agree with, or even if you don't. Like if something I said like activates you, like, cool. Like that's something to look at. Like what's there for you. Like even
Curious.
then, the invitation's curiosity. Like anytime I'm activated, I'm like, oh, thank you. Like there's something I'm not seeing here. This is actually a gift if I can choose to see it that way and if I'm willing to explore it and sit with that and be with that and learn something about myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think curiousness is, yeah, something that is needed in this life in general with ourselves. So hitting on that element is, something like, I'm curious about everything, about the world. And I used to think that there was like this black and white way of thinking, but there's so much nuance in between that black and white. It's really interesting to get down. And I'm a dissector. I love to dissect everything and get super curious. I guess because like I've had to do a lot of that work myself. And yeah, I find it interesting that the people who find it harder to do, again, quote unquote, the work or to tap into even their shadows and the things that are getting in their way, that sort of stagnation or the density within their body. And the tightness that they're holding on to, it's always, always a lack of curiousness. And that lack of curiousness, I believe, does come from judgments, black and white thinking, like we said, social media, marketing, like all of these things that have kind of kept us in this place of not asking questions. And I think that asking questions and being curious is one of the ways that we get enlightened, or one of the ways we start to see with not just our like physical eyes, but see with all of our senses. And I'm not talking about just the five that we know of. It's like the spectrum of our senses. And that is when we start really tapping into this quality of the world and of ourselves, where it is not just about like the physical, right? Like it becomes like a spiritual exploration, an energetic exploration of all things and the interconnectedness. And it's funny too that you connected the perception thing, like your perception, one of the universal laws, like your perception creates your reality. So if you're like going to hold on to like a belief system, an ideology, or something so strongly that you become immovable in it, like where are the men doing the work? Where are the women doing the work? Then you're right. In what will show up in your reality will be a mirror of that. You will continuously see that lack or that reality. And it goes hand in hand with like our shadow selves, our work. And I truly believe that women's shadow work is very different to men's shadow work. And I, because of how we're wired, biologically wired, women are just wired differently. So a lot of their shadow self that they're going to like really tap into is vastly different to men. Like I find a lot of women are more introspective, more self-reflective, kind of really turn everything about themselves and their, core wounds and shadows that they have to kind of untangle and unwind is being more outrospective. If that is that a word? Introspective, outrospective,
It
where
is
they're
now.
where they're actually working through their own like self-worth wounds. They're being too much, taking up too much space. And I find like and I want to hear your thoughts on this too, but this is what I see where I work with couples like one on one as well is, and then men tend to be less reflective by nature and really need to work on their internal world because they kind of view it, it's a different, I'm trying to find the words to explain it, but yeah, I feel like women need to be more like outroverted, and like men are naturally that way because that's the way our world with like patriarchy structures has actually made kind of the world revolve around men. And it's really interesting that we tap into this a bit because I want to hear from a man's perspective what you believe, especially with the work that you've done. So men more inclined to look outward. So, like if there's a relationship problem or anything like that, they'll be more inclined to look externally at like what is causing this problem externally than internally. And then women, on the other hand, are flip sided the other way. So they'll be more like self deprecating and not really looking on external and take on a lot more. What's your thoughts on that? Have I explained that properly? Probably not the best of my ability right now, but do you kind of
Yeah.
grasp what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
sort of?
No, yeah, no, I would say like what you're speaking to, I think could probably be more generally true.
Yeah.
I would also say that I don't always see it that way.
Yeah.
I think I don't know, I guess for me more and more, like I find less connection to like trying to understand the generalities of like men and women, how they behave. Cause like I think I just find in my experience more often than not, it can be less helpful and actually create more
Interesting.
confusion when we're
Yeah.
so hard trying to figure out men and women and how do they act and what do they need. And it's like, I think there are patterns and that can be helpful to a degree. I think a lot of people get a little too caught up in the generality zone. Then we see these Instagram posts about men and this and women that, and like it just doesn't land well in my system. I think we need to be a lot more precise, or like yeah, someone who is like a therapist or a coach or relationship coach, and it's like you see these patterns, like that can be really helpful in your practice when you're
Yeah.
working with someone of particular gender, at least as like a starting point to generally know where to look first. But I think more and more I'm just like, okay, let's start there and let's at least know that okay, this is the most likely place we should look for what this person really needs for their next level of growth. But then let's really just get to know this human being as an individual. Let's get to know where they're at and what their experience is. And like, because I actually am very different than a lot of the men in my community, where like weirdly enough, a lot of the experiences I had growing up, I can actually relate a lot more to women and like what girls go through in their growing
Interesting.
up experience and how I relate to my emotions and how I experience certain things in life and how I
Mm,
relate to sensation and like vulnerability. Like I actually came from kind of an opposite path where I was a lot more in tune with my feminine in
yeah.
my earlier years. And it's been more of my work in recent years to strengthen my masculine, but in like a really healthy and
Interesting.
integrous way. So even in that, it's like there's exceptions to the rules. And, you know, even men who do have a similar general experience, what's actually going to be the medicine for them might be an entirely different thing from one man to the next. You know, they might appear to have a similar challenge or a similar go to in trying to solve a problem that's not working for them, but one person's best approach might be one thing, and this other man might need to take it from an entirely different angle. So
Yeah.
I think that is one of the challenges that we can only get so far on the generalities of men versus women. And I would say I almost the more I learn, the less I know in that realm, where it's like
I
I'm
agree.
just more and more like meeting each person for where they're at and like how am I relating to this person? How is this person relating in my community? What gifts do they bring? What weaknesses do they have that we might need to complement? And how can we best figure out what one person's next piece of work really is and give them honest feedback about that, which is going to be different from man to man, from woman
Yeah.
to person. So that's a little bit of what comes up for me around that.
That's beautiful. I love the way you kind of just like stripped that all back and simplified and really sat with the yeah, the actual truth of, and this is the core truth of relating, right? Like like the deepest way we can connect with someone is sitting with them in the present moment and getting curious with them. And you've just really like highlighted that. It's really, and it's hard for me sometimes personally because I do work in the therapy and the coaching world, and I do work with, and I see these larger scale problems and, wanting to, again, like yourself, like I'm in a real space at the moment of like wanting to create legacy and step up in my leadership. And I want to like solve all the world's problems, which and
As you
just
should, you know?
if I could figure this out, I would literally help the whole world. And I'm seeing these larger scale problems of like, how can we bridge these gaps? But when we strip all that away, there is this core truth. And I love that we're kind of like landing on this at this moment. It's almost like we've come like, yeah, full circle. Like the core truth is everybody's so unique. Everybody's so different. Get off all these labels, masculine, feminine, man, woman, and really sit and anchor in the present moment and become curious. And I think that if we all did that with this element of playfulness and wonder, like I do believe that being in wonder and awe is actually part of us tapping into our spirit and our soul. And those elements, like gripping them down into the present and will allow like deeper connection, deeper understanding, deeper like relational coherence, right? And that is, again, like you said, it sounds so simple. Like we're talking about simplicity, and like if everybody got this, it'd be great. We'd be able to dust our hands and be wonderful. But the actual act of doing that can be so hard if we are carrying a lot of our own muck, a lot of our own perceptions and judgments and aspects of like unexpressed needs, wants, desires. And these are all the things that actually create like this clog like energy within our body where we're not able to open up and be in that relational field with another human.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I think presence is like the cheat code. Like true presence is actually being here with the present moment first and foremost, and learning to accept what is. Sounds very simple when I say those words, but like literally, can I accept what is? Like what does that mean? Let's like unpack that for a moment. It means that like you, Shiana, when I am relating to you, like you get to be exactly as you are. Like I'm not here to change you. I'm not here to tell you what your work is. I'm not here to tell you what is right or wrong about you. I can share reflections of how I experience you. I can appreciate you. I can like relate with you in ways that are enjoyable, but like I'm not here to change you on any level. I
Yeah.
think that's a really tricky thing because it can be so easy to want to change someone, which doesn't mean that, but the trick there is we actually never need to change someone. That's the truth that I've been coming to because I can reorient how I relate to anyone or anything. And that's the key. It's like, what's actually mine? What's actually in my power? I can still accept you, but if there's a behavior pattern you're doing that I don't like or don't want to relate to you in that way, cool. I can let you be that. If you're open to it, I can give you reflections about it if you want to become curious about my experiencing of you in that way. But even if you're not, it's like, okay, I'm going to reorient how I relate to you.
Yeah.
And that's like it. That's actually all that needs to happen,
Yeah.
which I don't even always love the word boundaries because I think people abuse that term. They're like,
Yeah.
I'm setting a boundary, which underneath it is kind of a fuck you, usually, like on some level, right? like a fuck you or you're wrong. Like so,
Yes.
it's usually woven in there. And so for me, I more and more like the energetics of like reorienting. Like
Reorientating.
I can communicate to you like, hey, I'm experiencing you in this way. I don't desire to. If you're open to feedback, I can give that to you. But if not, like I'm not here to change you. Like you are here to live your life the way you choose. And it's not resonating with me. And so I'm going to reorient myself. I like relating with you in these ways. But these other ways, I don't. And I literally just had a conversation with a good friend about this where over time we've kind of grown apart in certain ways.
Yeah.
And in other ways, I still love connecting with him. And so I was just honest with him about that. And it's beautiful. And I feel even closer to him now, weirdly enough, even though in certain ways I'm less close to him. But
Yeah.
it's like, I was just honest and we got to clear the air. And we both are very, like, we know where we're at with each other. And we're only relating in the ways that actually feel mutually aligned now, which is beautiful.
It is beautiful. And I love that you brought that up because I find that most people are scared to have these conversations. Most people are so scared to be transparent and honest. And I really feel like that is stripping the other person and the human their right to free will and their right to choose, right? Like if you're having friction and you're not bringing it up or you're not enjoying the way we've gone to this extreme now where we're just like, cut them off, let them, boundaries. And like we are becoming so isolated and alone in our experiences because we don't allow the other person the gift of our voice, our truth, our honest sharings and then allow them to either reorientate themselves with you or reorientate yourself to them. Like we strip them of that choice. And I believe that that's why we're seeing this fragmentation in society. And it's not just about relationships, to be quite honest. It's in a lot of areas that we're seeing this complete like isolation and this complete I don't belong anywhere. I don't right? Like it's
Mm,
it's actually
yeah.
like if you get down to it, we're creating this all ourselves because we're not speaking up and we're not giving them the choice, right? Like we have lost the art of actual like presence, communication, conscious communication, or and our sensitivities can sometimes be heightened. If somebody says I don't like anything, we get irritated, activated, and want to cut them off, right? There is this element of sitting in, and I love this. I love this stuff because it's like a big piece of my work. Like, I love like existential kink type work where it's like I can actually feel pleasure in all things, right? If someone's actually being like a fucking real cunt, like it is actually my choice whether I am going to take that personally, be irritated, let it activate me, or if I am finding like pleasure in that sensation, right? Of that person showing up that way. Like you can actually find pleasure in all things and in all ways of relating. And just because it's not incongruent with you taking on that person and that dynamic and pattern and like skipping down and spending your life with them doesn't mean you can't sit in a space of like activation and sensational like enjoyment moment to moment, right? And I find it really because I don't really. I find I love a broad range of people and a broad range of people in human experiences. I don't have just like spiritual woo woo like tantrika friends. I have friends that are some are drug addicts, some are this, and that doesn't mean like I'm calling like I have a vast array of human experiences, and I can love like you said that person for them and their experience and what they're moving through and who they are as a person without fixing, changing, or needing anything from them and extracting anything from them. Like they can simply be the way that they are. And I am the way I am. And it's when you move into this way, you can actually move into a softer, more curious place of like your human expression, right? And like I think that that also allows you to sit in a place of like non-judgment for the full spectrum of human experience, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I love the word you just used too, softening, like soften, which what's coming up for me around that is I actually don't I have a theory that similar to what
Yeah.
you shared earlier, like it doesn't have to be that hard. Like things that we think are so hard and so difficult, what if they don't actually have to be that hard? And so the example that's coming up that you had kind of mentioned earlier is like, where are all the men? Like where are all the conscious men doing the work? Like, where are they? Which when I hear and say it in that tone, it's almost like I'm expecting not to find it, But if I can soften and just like subtly shift my energy and just say it from this place of like genuine curiosity, then it's like, where are all the men? Like, where are they? Where are you hiding? Like where are you at? Like, I know you're there
Show me
somewhere.
the men. Show me the women.
Show me. Where are the women? Where are those women that I'm looking for, that I want to connect with, that are ready to relate with me? It's like, what if it was that simple? What if we really could just like soften our internal gaze, our internal like orientation to the world and what we're expecting or not expecting to find, to orient in a way where it's like I'm expecting to, and that's like my experience now. Like I'm expecting to find men and women who are fucking doing the work, who are dope, who are like more healed, who are like on a similar journey to me and that are here to support me. Like I expect that. And I'm curious about how many more of these humans are out there. How many more can I find? It's like Pokemon, got to collect them all, you know? It's like,
We've got one from Australia now, so
I know. I'm picking them up from all across the world now. It's great. I love it.
global domination, here we come. I love that. I love that because it's like the thing I really want to reflect is like oftentimes the simplest shift in energy can have massive results, right? Like, and it is a subtle shift of, like you say, frustration, openness, curiousness, softness, playfulness. Like I really want to highlight this because so many people get so serious in this realm and they do forget and especially with this work because don't get me wrong, like this is brutal, gnarly work that we're doing, like within the body, within our shadows, looking at our own shit, looking at the ways where we are actually the victim and the one that's the villain at the same time and keeping ourselves in the same shit. It's hilarious, but it actually is, it can be gnarly. But honestly, like, then I think people take it so serious and so over the top that they forgot that it's the game of life and like really getting playful with it moment to moment, like you have just shown, like very, very beautifully. It's like, yeah, show me, like, it's a game, like, play with, and this is Eros, like, this is life force, like, moving through you. Like, it is the yummy, delicious element. And, it can be joyful, it can be playful, and you can bring that back into this journey. So you're not waiting around, like, wading through all of this serious element and like kind of losing yourself and your individuality and your personality. I feel it's like something that I feel a lot of people are experiencing, and there's this lackluster element of wanting to experience another person because they're so weighed down with their own seriousness of life.
which is like way less attractive, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's so unattractive. God damn.
like to be blunt, it's like I would much rather connect with a woman who's like, where are all the men than like, where are all the men? You know, it's like, I kind of don't want to have anything to do with that energy, to be honest. Like,
Get away from me. You're repelling what you
it's like,
want.
red flag. No.
It's so true. And because one is hard and one is soft, right? And I think
Yeah.
again, if we were to strip it back to simplicity, where are you soft and where are you hard? Because you can feel the energetic quality of that. Like you can feel in your body, where are all the men? That's hard. But when you're soft, and curious, you're like, where are the men? Like, show me the men. It's
Mhm.
soft, it's open, it's actually like more magnetic. It's more like,
Mm.
yeah, I love that. Oh my God, I love this conversation. It's so good.
And this just came to me. And
Tell
when
me.
you're soft like that, he's going to get hard.
Yes. Oh, wow. We need you hard there. I mean, it's true though. And I think that this has been a huge experience. A lot of the people that I work I mean, with women for some reason, like relationships and I don't even know if it's just for women because I mostly work with women or I work with couples, but the ache in their body is relationships. But I know even myself, and even if you've expressed like, for a large portion of your life, and maybe it's just the way we're all wired because personally, even myself, my biggest ache and wounding has all been in relationships. My biggest awakenings have also been in relational work. And but it's like it's the deepest work you'll ever do. It's the most enlightened I've ever been, like doing relational work and relationship work and trying to relate to another human will make you see like all your shit. But also I have found it to be very, and I don't know if it's true because of like the whole being on the spectrum thing. I find human relating like a bit of a hard space for me. And I do kind of want to like figure it out. And a lot of women too that come to my spaces are quite similar. But it's interesting to hear from your perspective how you also found it a little bit hard in the first years of your life and when you were younger. It's really interesting. But I think relationship work and like coming together is like where we're going and where we need to go for the future of society and the earth. But I also believe that it's something we're navigating in a new way for the first time. So there are going to be a lot of like clunks and frustration and trying to figure it out and putting it in boxes and not getting it right and fucking up and thinking we're just like, there's going to be so much because we don't have a pattern or a system that's laid out that we are a yes to. Like we have seen past relationships where people have to get together, you know, for safety, for survival, for marriage, for, you know, there. And I truly believe we're going in a whole new trajectory. And so we're just trying to figure it out alongside each other. And it's kind of, we're in a little mess at the moment. And I love that there's people like you, like myself, that are actually stepping up to the plate to go, like, you know, this is not the way it's supposed to be. I'm going to take the reins, take the charge. And a lot of us have had to move through our own fears and shadows of being seen, you know, talking up, using our voice, being a leader, a lot of self worth issues to actually get to a point where, like, okay, no more. I'm stepping up into my leadership role now. I don't have it all figured out. I'm still a messy and flawed human, but I'm willing to put my vulnerabilities out there on the table, show up as a real human and lead the way alongside this space that we are still actually in the birthing canal of, right? Like it's not fully birthed yet. Like we're birthing it. And it does look like we're midwifing it, baby. But it's hard work and we don't have it figured out. And I think that that is the realness and the rawness of what we're actually here to do at this moment. And I know a lot of people will resonate with that calling. Man, woman, other experience and expression at this moment in time, it truly is. We're just like, okay, where do we go from here? And we're all just trying to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And we get to mess up and we get to give ourselves grace and we get to figure it out together. And that's why I'm like so excited to even be talking to you right now because I feel like we need more real ass conversations like this so we can figure it out and we can talk about like, you know, the places we're getting stuck, the places we're getting rigid, the places we're in judgment so that we can notice that in ourselves and like go beyond that because there's greener pastures to get to. And, you know, I think that we're only going to get there together. Like we're all literally in this together. And I don't mean this just from like a disconnected spiritual place, but like literally us, whatever, 8 something billion humans, we're all part of the same species. Like I am one cell in this larger organism. Like, how can I be of service to this larger thing? How can I
Yeah.
better understand what role I can play in this bigger thing? And, you know, that can seem a little daunting and overwhelming. But the paradox there, I think, is like it's everything that happens in here goes out there. And I know that the more that I figure it out inside of myself, you know, relationship starts from within, starts with my own self, my own parts, my own masculine and feminine within me. And how well developed am I in each of those? And how harmoniously are they working together and being in relationship with each other? Before I started calling in all these dope humans into my life, men and women, it's like I was getting right in here. I was figuring it out in here. I was solving the puzzle inside of myself, which I continue to do. But the more that I do, the more that the external reflects the internal, as within, so without. So
The
yeah, it's like
relational
it's
dynamics start from within, always.
100%, 100%.
Hot.
Yeah.
We love that. We love that. Hey, I'm curious if I know, I mean, I could talk to you forever about this and deep dive with you and swim in this cosmic soup with you. Absolutely forever. And I'm sitting here and I feel like there's still so much I wanted to for you to talk on around men's sexuality and all of this. But I feel like maybe it could be for another time. But I'm curious if there's anything else like in your heart, in your body that you wanted to share, like any sort of takeaway messages that you would love for anyone to hear before we kind of actually move into, yeah, saying goodbye for today, for now, until next
Yeah.
time.
It's been a fun taster episode, fun
Oh
teaser
my
until
God, I could just
the
go
next
so
one.
many places with you. It boggles me. I love it. But yeah,
That's why we're sugar and spice.
sugar and
Just
spice, baby. We just
mix
like
together.
pew, pew, pew.
Well, actually, on that note, I the last thing I feel called to share, and kind of a playful, kind of a serious note, is one thing I loved about when we met, and that kind of nickname came up for us. We would switch off being sugar and spice. Like it wasn't just like one or the other, and I really loved that, and that for me is like represents like a really powerful piece of the work that I do myself, where it's like I more and more don't see myself as like what it means to be a man doesn't like land as well for me as just like what it means to be a human who's dynamic. And like, yes, I have this like male body form. And yes, like I can be very masculine. I've actually been really playing with my Dom archetype more, which has been
Spice.
super fun. But I can also be really soft and be in my feminine and like be in the flow and be deeper in my feelings and my emotions and like the trust and the faith and like just the different qualities that come with that.
Yeah,
And the very interesting thing that I've noticed is that I feel like two things. One, I've actually developed a much stronger masculine by having a very well developed feminine within myself. It's like there's actually an upper limit on how much strength I can cultivate within my masculine if my feminine is too weak.
yeah,
And I think that's like a really beautiful realization I continue to come to even more that for me the term toxic masculinity is an interesting one because I don't believe masculinity is fundamentally toxic. It's
neither.
simply unbalanced. It's unbalanced with the feminine. Like there's a lot of men who don't even understand, for example, that they have an inner feminine. Or even if you don't believe in that or that terminology, that like there's these other qualities that are usually underdeveloped in certain men that has them when they try to use their masculine power, it comes off in rough and harsh and harmful ways because it doesn't have that attunement, it doesn't have that connection and that care like alongside of it. And so that's why it can often destroy and cause harm in all the ways that it does that we see as this toxic expression, which is very real. But, I just really want to like emphasize this point because two, the more I have well developed both of those qualities, like the cleaner I am in both of their expression. Because I think there can equally be toxic feminine expressions as well. Although it's talked about less typically, that can be a thing as well. I'm just expressing all my emotions and you just have to hold all of them, but I don't actually give a fuck about you or your experience. Like that is toxic. That's a toxic behavior. We get to be mindful of others and have consent with the level of expression and emotions that we're bringing for someone. And if they are a no to holding that level of expression, it doesn't make you wrong for having that, but you do get to respect their consent. And then you get to figure out how to even better strengthen your masculine and hold that for yourself. And I say that for men and women. I think it just shows up differently. For men, it's more often anger and rage and like that kind of expression. I mean, for women, it can very much be that too. But, we all have these qualities within us. And I think the more that we can build a strong container within ourselves and cultivate both of those qualities, like the cleaner our power is expressed and the cleaner our medicine is, the cleaner our energy comes off and the less harm that we're going to be causing because the more mastery we reach in both of those like the cleaner it is, the more precise we are with how we deliver it.
That's such a potent way to end this. And I really wanted to share about, because I feel like that was such a good reflection, the whole sugar and spice aspect. And I think that that is such a real moment to moment relational dynamic. So, and I find it really interesting that we naturally gravitated towards that, and we could also, there's an element of feeling inside ourselves and what we're sensing and noticing. Like, I'm sugar right now. Like, I can feel like I'm sugar, right? And also, and this is the part that I feel like we've really missed, because society and the world has made us so cut off, is actually resonating, caring, being there, and being curious about the other person's energy. Right. And so when you were spice, like, I could feel that in my body. It was so interesting that we would just like flip and toss. Like, I'd be sugar one moment, you'd be spice, and then we'd flip. And then even sometimes we were both spice. And we are like, oh, okay. So, and that, I think that that's a really cool way to share about, there's not one paradigm or polarity that we're sitting in constantly. And that is absolutely true in relating, in human expression, in full acceptance and presence for what is moving through us moment to moment. And throughout those course of a few days, we switched and turned, and sometimes we were spiced, and we were like, and as again, full circle moment, we give ourselves the option and the choice, like free will, to show up and be okay in that relational dynamic still. Right? Like, you are spice and I'm spice. Oh, okay, we're both spice. Let's figure this out together. Like, oh, we're both sugar right now. Okay, like, let's figure this out. And like, yeah, it makes it seem easier to sit in the other polarities of like, yeah, you're spice, I'm sugar, and vice versa. And we know this, but it is still figuring it out moment to moment. And I think that that is an element that we've lost in relating, and also an element that we've lost in really, like, we always feel and show like, what do I expect or what do I want out of love, relationship, from other people? But really, what are you in service to? What are you giving? Like, we have lost the actual humanity of ourselves, where we sit in a space of, this is this human, what are their needs, wants, desires, and what can we give and show up? Like, we have lost that. And I feel like, and again, this is a huge generalization. I don't believe that this is true in with a lot of us that are leading with heart and with our essence. But there is a sea of people I see where they're only asking, what can I take and obtain from love or another person, and not actually what can I give and what can I actually show up and push out and be in service to for another person. And it's a fucking shame. Like, it makes me so sad, because I believe so many relationships, so many friendships, so many dynamics are crumbling because of this posture that they have tried to make us sit in, which is one of like oscillation. Like, you're a lone wolf, like you said, you're out here by yourself, and that keeps us disempowered. Realistically, we need our community, we need our tribe, and all of these theories of let them and boundaries and no, fuck them. And this has really lost our essence of true relating and care for one another as human beings, whatever their expression, whatever element they're in their full spectrum humanness, because we are not just one dimensional, whether you're male or female. And I'm putting these in quotes, masculine, feminine, etc. We are actually constantly the full spectrum. And the more we allow ourselves to be an acceptance of that and strengthen that, as you said, in ourselves, the more we are able to show up for others in their expression without tearing it down.
Yeah, totally. I love that. And just to kind of tie this with a bow,
I love it, Bo.
love a good bow.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. To tie with a bow, I would love to see a world where we more and more see ourselves as humans first versus like a man or a woman or intersex or whatever your gender identity might be. Like, we are a human being. Like, that's what we have in common. Like, let's start with what we have most in common in. We each have these masculine and feminine qualities within us. That's common to everyone. So even if you are a male presenting human with a more masculine dominant approach, you're going to benefit from developing your feminine, bro. Like you're actually going to be a stronger and cleaner man in your expression of that dominant masculine energy the more that you work on your feminine, the more that you cultivate those qualities to balance it out and not see yourself as like, well, I'm just this. And so that's not for me, or I'm not going to worry about that. It's like, that's fine, but it comes with consequence. And, if I just see myself as like a man first, and it's like, I want to see myself as a man in relation to women, in relation to this bigger thing. Like, what role do I get to play to be a part of a more harmonious relational dynamic between men and women? Not like, this is what a man is, this is what a man should be, this is what men are doing right or wrong, this is what women are doing right or wrong. It's like, no, like, how can I serve? Because as you were saying, it's like what you were describing is extraction. What can I extract from this? Which is, one of the fundamental distortion qualities of the patriarchy, which doesn't just live in men. Like it's an energetic, it's a philosophy, it's a way of being that we have been programmed into that ultimately doesn't serve anyone, including men in so many cases. And I know there's so many men who don't want to be a part of that system, but we've all been inundated with it. It's the soup that we were born into. But we all need to take responsibility for getting ourselves out of there. And I think what you described is that. How can I serve in a greater way? How can I serve the people around me? How can I serve the collective? What do I have to bring and to give? Not from a place of martyrdom or sacrifice, but from like, what am I genuinely here to offer? Because we're all built and designed for something. We all have gifts and offering of yourself to everyone, and be generous with that. Be generous with your gifts. Be generous with your energy, and not be attached to the outcome, but just like, I'm giving who I am. I'm giving what I have. And if we all live in that way, then I think the world would be a very different place. So
Me too. My God, I absolutely love you. I just love your energy. I love what you're here for. I love that you're doing this work, and not just this work. Honestly, I love all your work, even your fun, like pizza work. I watch your reels and stuff and think they are so hilarious. So
so
I,
fun.
the red one just sent me. Oh my God. It was so good. Yeah, Nathan, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with me and sharing with the audience yourself, your heart, your vulnerability, your stories, your shares. I am super excited to hear reflections back and comments back. So let us know what you think. Reach out and connect with us. I will swing over to Nathan to see, yeah, how you can work with him, where he's at, anything else you'd love to share about your work and your businesses, and where can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm sure we can share in the show notes or whatnot some links to my different businesses. My two restaurants, we make like funny reels and stuff. So you can follow us on Instagram and get a good laugh. My whole social media strategy is just to make my friends smile and laugh with the content that we make. So maybe you'll find it fun. The one she was referring to, I got 3 gallons of ranch dumped on my head. So that was a good time.
It's so funny. I love all your reels. They're great.
So yeah, if you're ever in Phoenix, then you can stop by one of my restaurants. I also do coaching work as well. I work with both men and women on a lot of the topics that we talked about today. Also like business as well. I especially love working with entrepreneurs, creators, leaders of communities as well. So or yeah, just any kind of like masculine, feminine, relational kind of work, shamanic work. So if any of that interests you, feel free to reach out and would love to have a conversation about that. And yeah, if you're ever in the Phoenix area, I'm very connected to men's and women's work communities, to the tantra community. I also organize ISTA trainings, which are week long spiritual, sexual, shamanic initiations. So you can also ask me about that. And I think that's pretty much what I got to say. You can connect with me on Instagram at Nathan Curry, Nathan Coury, and just shoot me a DM, and would love to connect and hear your thoughts too. I'm excited to read any comments. What you love, what might have triggered or activated you, what you didn't like just any of it. Like all of it's welcome. So yeah, feel free to share your honest feedback about how
Yeah.
you experience this conversation.
Love that. Actually, most of my audience is American. Surprise, surprise. I feel like I should be
Okay.
in America, in Phoenix, eating your food all the time. So, thank you very much. This is actually the longest podcast I've ever done with anyone. So, that must
Wow.
mean that I just vibing off your energy. Yeah, thank you very much for being here. And that is all for me. See you next time on Alchemy with Shiana Lee. Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Bye.